input. Do we have any public input? Ralph?
Yeah, just a quick comment. Welcome back to spring. And it's really nice to see the kids back over in Running Park. The ball team, the tennis courts going on, the kids using it for their PE classes. It's really nice to see them back over there. It's been a long winter without us.
Good. Thank you. Anybody else? Rich? No? You're on.
Well, being an old timer, and probably the only one that still remembers Miss Bronson, and at the same time worked 20 years in the school system with Mr. Lapide. And changing the name of it kind of bothers me. It doesn't seem to be fair. You got two people that were dedicated to the youth of Liverpool. And yes, I believe that both of them should be recognized. Yes, Daisy Bronson Junior High or Middle School, she was an excellent teacher. And usually she was the first one in the building and the last one to leave. And I was fortunate enough to have her in the 7th and 8th grade, math and science. The 8th grade year was her final year of teaching. There's still people that know her that are still in this community or nearby communities. Some of my classmates. And then I can even go back further. My dad had Miss Bronson, so I knew ahead of time not to misbehave.
Okay.
And the same, I can mention a guy by the name of Bob Cady that a lot of us here know. And John Spencer, Mrs. Spencer's husband. Those were two seniors that dedicated their yearbook to Daisy Bronson and mentioned that what an educator that she was, what an inspiration she was to the students. My first year teaching at Littleton, I was teaching the junior high, math, and back then there was 35 to 37 kids in the classroom. And then there was some afternoons that I'd sit there and look at that blackboard and say, Miss Bronson, what am I in for now? What do I do? And I was fortunate to be in the same area that she had her classroom. The school had burned down in, I think, 54. So by the time in 55, 56 years, they had rebuilt the school. But the area that her room was in was my homeroom. So it meant something to me. But I'm an old timer. And that's what bothers me. Change, a lot of it should be left in your pockets. The things that were done before were done for good reason. And I think the dedication to Miss Bronson was there when Mr. Topping, and I'm sure that Mrs. Cooper was there, Mr. Milnick, Doc Hill, were 4 members of that board that were there when they dedicated the Lakeway and Bronson School. I would think that we would not replace, but build a new memorial or dedication. I had some suggestions. I mean, yes, the yearbook is always a nice representation for an individual that's spent their time and dedication to the youth. Something at graduation that would be given out to a student. I know in my years there was an award given out to the 8th grade student that showed promise and just was a good kid. How about the gymnasium? Can we name the gymnasium? Lisbon thought enough of Mr. Stillings. The people in Woodsville thought enough to name their gymnasium the John Begonzi Memorial Building. How about a trophy cabinet? Build it large enough with a picture of Mr. Lafitte and something about his dedication and what he did for his youngsters and students. Have that in the hallway or on the room that he taught in. Another thought came up was they're going to have a new building at Remick Park. Now Pierre initiated the summer program to include a lot of the young people. I mean, you're talking to kindergartens, first graders, second graders, and got that program going, and it was an excellent program, and it's still running today. Maybe dedicate this building in name of it. I think that we should build and not replace. Both people are dedicated educators in this community. So that's about all I would build, don't replace.
Appreciate your comments.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks. Any more public comments? Okay, well, we do have some more information from family members and other interested people, which we'll be discussing in non-public session. The board has not yet made any kind of a decision, but I'm sure everybody will know as soon as we do. Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Did you bring a yearbook?
Excuse me?
Mr. Mellon?
She asked me.
It's okay. All right. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes for April 17th. So I hear a motion.
So moved.
Second. Any errors, corrections, or omissions?
On the present list, at the very end, it shows Alex Smith, Channel 2, that he set up the cameras and then moved on to the other meeting down the hallway where the function was. So his cameras were present, but he wasn't actually present.
So we could say cameras only?
That's the only thing I noted on there. And then on the public input,
Yeah.
I noted two that were left off. Jerry Lesage spoke up in favor of doing a combined joint name, and Mike Doucette also spoke up in favor of the name change.
Okay.
And that was all I found for.
Okay. Any further omissions or corrections?
I would just, on page 2, under Carol Lucas's comments where it says Ann Wiggett, I would just put stated that some people have called me. Because it says Ann Wiggett, some people have called me.
Oh, right, and
So
with the
just
comments, some people.
Add
Oh.
stated.
Right, okay. Anything else? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to accept as amended?
So moved.
Second again?
Second again. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The manifests are going around. Tom, do you want to discuss projected fund balances? Or?
On the first of the month, it's difficult to come up with a formal report, but I did run through some estimates this afternoon, and we're still in pretty good shape. I'm looking at revenues potentially at $130,000 or so better than the estimate in the fall. And at this point, expenditures are still in the 200, 225 range, less than the budget. So I'm looking at, I'd be comfortable saying 350 at this point.
Okay.
That does include some of the issues that you've got on the table with retirements and payout of sick days and things like that. So that's already included.
And did you, I think the report you gave me on the updated capital reserve accounts was a March balance, you don't have that?
Yes, of course, I don't have bank statements yet
Okay.
for April. So even my watch says it's the 31st, so.
Time delay.
But as of the March 31st reconciliation, in fact, I do have copies if board members would like to see it. The grand total of all the accounts was $766,429.
Okay. Thank you. I do need to go back to a comment that I would like to make. I believe I've heard that this week and next week is Teacher Staff Appreciation Week. So the Board of Education would like to take this opportunity to express our gratitude and appreciation for all the work that you do during the year for the youth of our community. We know that it can be a difficult job at times, but in the end, it can be very rewarding and provide satisfaction in what you do on a daily basis. Thank you again for your professionalism and support to all the youth. Wilton School Board, Ann Wiggett, Jim Annan, Neil Nelson, Greg Cook, and Kim Woodson. So maybe she can send it out, maybe she has that, she can send it out to the staff. Unfinished business is the gym roof repair update.
Okay, we received 2 bids, which I sent out to you on Saturday, so hopefully you got a chance to take a look at those in the email. Palmari Roofing bid came in at $54,800, and then there's an alternate deduct there. If we go with a white membrane rather than the gray, it's a deduct of $4,800. And the other bid is from Kevin W. Smith and Son Incorporated, and the total for that bid is $92,000. So a significant difference in the 2 bids.
Yeah, I don't see any difference in
No,
in
you
work.
compare the work and it's the same.
Yeah, I just had George take a look too, and he didn't see anything that concerned him about either bid, but they're in his eyes appear to be pretty equal.
Yeah, the only, Steve, the only thing as I went through them, there was some just stuff I'd want to clarify, like on the Smith quote, does that include disposal? It's clearly stated in the Palmari
Okay.
quote, but it's not in the Smith.
Yep.
The differences in the actual membrane, they've got 2 different membranes listed. How are they comparable to one another? I mean, they both show a 20-year warranty, but one shows it talks about a 60 mil PVC, and the other one talks about a fully adhered .060 EPDM membrane. I don't know enough to know whether or not that is comparing an apple to an apple, or is that comparing an apple to an orange.
Okay.
It looks like Palmari has a little more, at least defined in their quote, more in regards to the flashing, where they talk about flashing around the HVAC unit, the roof drains, the walls.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one just specifies edge metal.
Right.
So one thing I'd want somebody to do whether it's
Yeah.
Donnie, George, or somebody else, take an apples to apples look at line by line to make sure that,
Mhm.
you know, the difference in price is $40,000, or close to. Is that $40,000 in the details of the Smith that's not in the Palmieri, or vice versa?
Okay.
And then the only question I have is they talk about that deduction of $4,800 for going to white.
Right.
Is that just a difference in color, or is there quality difference? Is there a durability difference? Is there a warranty difference? You know, and why? What's better about gray versus white? Are there benefits? Does it have to do with melting? Does it have to do with anything like that? You know, heat. So those are the kind of things I think we need to look a little more detailed in before we agree to one of these.
Okay.
Because the cheapest price is not always the best deal.
You weren't looking for a decision, were you, tonight on,
Don't have to.
on what?
No, I wouldn't want to make a decision without
No,
knowing
I
the
didn't
details
want
on
to
this,
talk
so.
to, yeah.
For sure by the next meeting though, because we're gonna get into the summer, but, yep.
We should, but those are, yeah, I would think somebody representing those bids would have to give us a little better explanation as, well, it's not me, but somebody. George or Donnie, like,
I did, they did look at those. I did have George look at them and
maybe we could
But-
get George's feedback then.
but certainly, certainly with some of the more specific questions, I can make sure that he addresses those. I can tell you Palmieri is as you probably know, is the company that put the,
Yeah,
as you know, put the roof on Lakeway the last couple of years. So we do have an indication of the quality of work, at least it's in terms of timeliness and that kind of thing.
Yeah, the one thing I did notice too on the Palmieri roofing that was not on that quote but was on the Smith was that there was a 2-year workmanship warranty
Right.
in addition to the 20-year warranty on the material.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's Palmieri's offering the same thing, it's just not in the details here, or
Actually, with the Sarnafil system, it's a manufacturer's warranty for parts and labor.
so labor too, so it covers the warranty, it covers the work as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So Sarnafil actually comes up and does an inspection prior to sign off on the project.
Oh,
Yeah.
Somerville, is it? Okay.
And then related to that, of course, is the condition of the air conditioner condenser unit that cools the gymnasium primarily, or not primarily, it cools the gymnasium. And I guess the question there is do we want the gym to be air conditioned? And that's a fundamental question. Is that something we need to have done? I don't know how hot it gets in there.
Well,
And-
just the whole graduation's outside.
Yeah.
But
But that's just a question that should be asked. I mean, I assume that we want that done, but we should at least think about it, how often we really need it and how critical it is. And I'm guessing it probably gets fairly uncomfortable in there without it when you get toward June, but I don't know.
How bad is the compressor at this point?
It's non-functional.
Non-functional.
Yeah, it's shot.
And then how long has it been shot?
That I don't know. I do know that Al mentioned that last year during graduation it wasn't necessarily all that cool in there once we got the gym full of people. But that I don't know really. The point of it too is that if we're going to replace the roof membrane, we should do the condenser first.
Yeah.
And not go back up there on a brand new roof with, well, not self-explanatory. So, I don't know how hot it gets here in the summer. I mean,
Well, if it's not, it gets hot, but if it's non-functional, we really do need to fix it.
and it was good enough to put it in the first place, why wouldn't we want to repair it? I mean, it was,
I'm assuming that
This wasn't budgeted for though, correct?
it's not budgeted no. It's not in any of the budget we've approved in terms of
sometimes it's good to have the air circulator, it isn't
this
just
year's budget or next year's budget.
hot or cold.
Mhm.
Well, and then the other question, I have the information on the condenser, so I would question the date of that letter.
Yeah,
Make sure it's still good.
yeah, and it is. Roland I know has been in communication with Al Smith and has asked that, just asked if we're going to do it, because like, everyone's getting their work lined up, as we know.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that those items come back to the next meeting
Yep.
so that we can vote them.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Now, what would you like me to do in terms of the air conditioner unit, in terms of wall off, or what would you like me, anything specific I need to do before then? On that?
Did you have quotes on that, right, to repair it or no?
We did, yeah, we did, I sent,
Yeah, I got
all
it.
right, actually, I just sent you yeah.
Price.
Well,
The unit itself, it's as you know, there's a fairly significant chunk of change removing and installing. It takes a lift, it takes a crane and some things like that. That's why it's a little, the insulation's not cheap.
How old's the unit?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Are we long past the warranty on it, or? I think that's something we
I
need to
can
look at.
find, I'll find
I
out
think,
for you.
I think the board's interested in having it fixed, but we need some
Well, I'm certainly interested in having it fixed, but if it's,
repaired or
You know,
replaced
if it's
or.
something we've had that for 15 years and had a life expectancy of 10, then we got our money's worth. But if it's
Yeah,
something that has, we've gotten 7 years out of it with a life expectancy of 10 and the warranty ended at 5 years, well,
okay. I can find that out. Yeah, I think Tom probably right. It probably was one of the, probably one of the major projects, but.
and then in the replacement, is there a warranty with the replacement, and if so, what that is?
Okay.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is Lakeway Site Review Committee. Jim, you want to speak to that?
The Lakeway Site Review Committee was formed about a year ago in May, and the task was to identify sites in the community in and around, hopefully the center of town, that could be suitable for a new elementary school. So the committee located about 13 different properties, and over the course of a couple of months, we went through the specs of the properties and either qualified or disqualified the properties based on some criteria. Finally, back in September last year, we came up with a recommendation of 3 properties that we put forward. Those 3 properties are still the only viable properties that we've had at this moment. But the committee fulfilled its task, so I'd like to make a request that we sunset that committee. And if we do need another committee for future site review or more detailed working with Lakeway, that we call a different committee. But I just want to make a motion that we sunset that committee and thank them for their service.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Jim, can you let the members of that committee know? No?
Sure.
Okay. All right, Personnel Committee, I don't think has met. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
We're going to.
Okay, Facilities Committee.
I believe we've met, Jim, we didn't meet since last meeting, right? So I guess we need to know, do we have a meeting scheduled on the board right now on the calendar?
Let me look, Greg, I can tell you. Yeah, I'm showing that the next meeting is the 12th of May, week from Friday.
And is that at 7:30?
Uh-huh.
And that's at the SAU conference room, correct? I mean, not that.
CTC, yeah.
CTC conference.
Yep, yep, exactly.
So the 12th at 7:30.
Yes.
Jim? Perhaps at that time, you could get the information you just requested and bring it forward to them and
Yep, I will. I think
bring it up to the next board meeting. Okay, we did have a policy committee meeting on the 28th, last Friday, and we discussed several things. Crystal had re-upped the Lakeway Wellness Policy, which is JLCF, and in keeping with the codification of these policies, the district policy itself should be JLCF, and then the implementation of the policy or the regulation is then followed up like Crystal's done, we just put JLCFR1. The high school needs to be updated, that would become JLCFR2, so somehow we have to get that. But anyway, I would like to recommend, and I think Patty, you put all these things in here that she changed. They're not in red or anything, okay? I would like to recommend that we, the school board, adopt this regulation policy of the Lakeway Wellness. And I don't know if we had time to read it all. It's about 6 pages.
Yeah, it was a lot.
She worked with her crew. She also had a consultant, and I think she also had the manager of Fitzroy attend
Did a good
this,
job, yeah.
because that's part of their duties. So,
I thought it was well put together for what I know.
and obviously, because of the different schools, they have to be age appropriate and stuff.
So you want a motion to adopt this policy then?
For the first reading, yeah?
Yep. I make a motion that we adopt JLCF-R1 policy, wellness policy for first reading.
Second?
Okay. Any further questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I think the next policy, whoops, I don't have that on, do I have that on here? The volunteer position.
Yeah, I think that's this one.
Because you said you wanted to
Huh?
bring 15.
Oh, okay, we'll do that for the 15th. We're gonna have another meeting on May 19th, to review a couple more policies. One of them is the criminal background check and investigation. 2 of our SAU personnel are going to a meeting next week. So I told Dr. Niles that perhaps we'll wait until they come back to see whatever, any changes there might be. We can discuss it at that time and hopefully get through this criminal background check, because it is pretty lengthy and has lots of stuff to it. The other thing is we did, Kim got some information on an exit interview policy, so we'll be looking at that as well next meeting. And that's it for that. Just an update from legislature. I get a weekly update from the New Hampshire School Board Association. Senate Bill 191 is a request to, Governor Sununu wanted to provide additional funding for property poor school districts that offer a full-day kindergarten program. The House Education Committee met and offered a revised amendment which says it calls for approximately $14.5 million per year in additional adequacy aid for all school districts that offer full-day kindergarten, not just targeted aid. The House Education Committee voted ought to pass with amendment by a vote of 15-4. So that's good, because we only get half-day credit, period. Senate Bill 193, which is a voucher bill, seeking to provide vouchers for parents who withdraw their children from public school. I did respond to the House Education Committee, and I got 3 responses back. 3 of them were opposed to the way the bill was written, because they said it would be bad for New Hampshire. So on Tuesday, the House Education voted to retain Senate Bill 193 by a vote of 15-4. So that means it could possibly be brought back up at next year's legislative session, not this year's. And then House Bill 356, introduced and passed by the House, was to create a study committee to study the cost of an adequate education. That Senator Walters, I believe, introduced an amendment to that to create a study committee to study education funding as well as study the organizational structure of the Department of Education. So the Senate Education Committee voted ought to pass on Senator Walters' amendments by a vote of 3-2. So that's all I have for legislative issues at this point in time. So that brings us to the superintendent's report.
Okay, everybody back today after the April break. I was in the buildings quite a bit and a lot of classrooms. It was good to see students back and excited to be there. In Lakeway, I spent a lot of time in Lakeway today, especially, and the little ones were really happy to be back at school, and the teachers as well. I think that was very good. It felt very good there, and also at Daisy Bronson, LHS as well. You know, we always look forward to the breaks, but people always like to get back to work, and kids back with their friends, some that they don't always get to see over the break, and so it was a good day. A few things I wanted to talk about. Attended an event at a Littleton Coin Company. This was several weeks ago, and they sponsored an Educators Connect event that was really interesting, informing, very nice to see their operation, but as much as that to hear some of the things they look for in graduates, how different people with various backgrounds come in with some of them with some post-high school technical career training, some with some college, some with full college degrees. It's a wide variety of employment profile, but obviously it's one of the actually second largest employer in the town, and it's certainly a critical part of the local and regional economy, and so it was very nice to be invited in and get to see the business and see the products that they're working with, and again get to meet with some of the individuals who work there. Al Smith told me right before break that Don Soja's efforts in working with recycling has earned him some recognition, and I didn't get the chance to follow up with Al today with the exact nature of the award, but I did want to acknowledge that Don's good work is going to be recognized with an award in the area of recycling. Ann already mentioned Teacher Staff Appreciation Week. Actually, it's a couple of weeks. Daisy Bronson, LHS this week, Lakeway next week, and then with our breaks and different things, there's other things going on, such as recognition weeks, administrative professionals week also. Unfortunately, that came and gone during our break, so sorry about that, Patty. I'm coming clean before this group and Channel 2 and everything, but last week the schedule wasn't real amenable to that. But I wanted to recognize the work of Patty, and as well as our other administrative professionals in the buildings and the work that they do, and certainly it takes a lot of different people, different roles, different talents, and I'm thankful to each of them for the work that they do. Principal selection process for Daisy Bronson LHS will begin this week with the committee. Actually, we'll start meeting tomorrow, and we'll be working through the process in terms of the needs, the questions, and the process as we go forward this week with that. I want to thank Marilyn Stillings for sharing with us driver's ed materials. Several boxes full of materials that we've already taken. Mike Doucette's already picked those up, and I know we'll be using some of those materials in our newly formed driver's ed program. Speaking of which, there was a meeting for that on Sunday, and our first cohort will be beginning this week. Full cohort with 16 students, and we already have quite a few students lined up for the next one. And then Ron Bolt also was generous to donate a keyboard to the music department, which I took up for Chrissy to use up here at the high school, so the middle school, high school. So I want to thank him for that as well. And that's the highlights from the last couple of weeks.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into non-public, please.
Sorry. I didn't grab my
It's like
laptop.
your job now. We all look to you.
I'll make a motion to enter into non-public session under paragraph 2, section 3
Drop the ball.
of the RSA 91A:3 of the right to know law for numbers 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Number 2, the hiring of any person as a public employee. Number 3, matters that would adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of the board. Taking with us the superintendent
Tom and Patty.
and the business manager and Patty.
Second?
Second?
All in favor, roll call vote.
Greg Cook?
Kim Woodson?
Melanie Nelson.
Jim Annan?
And we get,
Just a quick question.
yeah,
Why would the renaming of the school be discussed in a non-public? How does that affect those two numbers?
because we may be discussing personnel other than us, people other than us.
Personal names of other community members that may not want their names public at this time.
Okay. It doesn't sound like something that would come under the right to know, but under the non-public, but go for it.
Okay,
You've got other personnel matters too.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, the personnel matters he gets, he said questioning if we're, yeah.
For
over that
personnel
topic.
matters, I
Yeah,
understand, but
yeah.
you're talking about renaming the school and people putting in the comments about renaming the school. It's got nothing to do with personnel on the school board or the school committee or, except mentioning their names, but they're the ones that are putting the information forward. I would think that'd be public information. But I just don't see how that fits in. I just want to make that comment. I don't see how that fits into your
All right.
non-public.
Thank you.